Hello and welcome back to Mikey's Flightdeck. Today it's the beginning of a new chapter in my cockpit project. I'm building the pedestal and we'll start today with a pedestal box. This time I'm producing most of the parts on my laser or my CNC router, but this isn't necessary. I'm doing it just because I have these tools now and it is a little bit more precise than doing it with hand tools. But if you have seen the video where I'm building my first pedestal box, then you should have seen that it is absolutely possible to build this box with just normal tools. The sides of the pedestal are a little bit too big to be routed out on my CNC, so I have cut them out on my table saw, and now I have to drill in the holes for the cross dowels. These are here on the stripes on the middle of the pedestal, which are made on my CNC, and I will use these as a guide, and I will align them here on the top edge, fix it with a little bit of double-sided tape, and then guide the drill through here so that I can copy the holes onto the bigger plate. To fix the panels later on top of these stripes, I need two holes. One hole is this 8mm hole here for the cross dowel nut, and the other one is perpendicular to this hole and comes from the top where the screw dives into the wood. And it is very critical that these two holes are aligned correctly to each other. I have designed a wooden jig when I have built my overhead frame. You can download this from my website. And now I have created a 3D printed jig here, which has a cylinder down here that goes into the 8mm hole. And then there is another hole on top here, which is aligned perfectly to the 8mm hole. And this can be used as a guide for a drill. After the four middle stripes are glued together, I can now begin to align the four elements, the two sides here and the two middle elements here. But aligning is very critical here at the pedestal. Always when there later have to be panels mounted on, then every millimeter is important in aligning. And to not run into any alignment mistakes here, I have cut out these alignment guides here from acrylic. They have the same width like the panels that will be installed later here, and they can be mounted like a panel on top of these rails here. And so I will make sure that these four parts will stay at the distance they have to be while I'm assembling the whole pedestal here. So this is how the parts look like now. All the parts are separated with a distance that we need later, and yeah, it's already a little bit sturdy so that you can handle it. Now it's time to take the next part. I call this the back side of the pedestal. It's the side that faces towards the throttle unit. I can lay this down and put these parts onto it. And before I will do this, I can apply a little bit of glue to these sides, let the glue set for a while, and then shoot some nails into it, or you can use screws, what you have there. This time I wanted to install all the cross dowel nuts here before I'm starting making all the panels. And this is because when I have installed them before I start the painting, then I avoid the problem that paint can come into the holes, make them smaller so that the cross dowel nuts later won't fit in as easy as they do now. But like on my overhead frame, there are some areas where a problem can happen, and this is where two cross dowel nuts are at the same position above each other. The nuts are a little bit longer than this 10mm MDF here, and so they collide in the middle here. And then I have to shorten one of the nuts here. You can avoid this problem when you're using 12mm MDF instead of 10mm MDF, but on the other hand, if you would do this, you would lose 4mm of space here that you could use for a panel later. And I thought space is always critical, and so I'm investing now in the time to shorten 12 of these nuts instead of losing space for the panel. While the primer paint is drying on the parts, I can give my attention to another small challenge here on this part, and these are these cross dowel nuts that stick out here out of the MDF. I have said that the nuts are a little bit too long for a 10mm MDF, so they stick out, and I have to mount these covers here later on top here, but these wouldn't lay flash on the MDF. I could sand down the nuts with an angle grinder, but I think this wouldn't come out with a good surface here, it would damage much of the MDF, and so I decided to cut in or route in a groove here, just 1.5 millimeters, to cover these nuts here and to let this cover lay down flush again on the MDF. I want to keep this side here removable in case that I need to reach here to the Arduinos or the cable for maintenance purposes. And instead of fixing it with some screws here that would also cause wear out to the MDF, I think, when you use them too often, I thought that I could use magnets here instead. And I have already tested this. I have installed a small metal angle here at this corner and glued a small magnet on the back of this side here. And when I now bring it in place, you can hear this. It already snaps in here and stays in place. I think I will have to add 3 more magnets to the other edges, and then this should hold really well. The 4 knobs are just dummies without any function. I filled the engraved text with wax and added a 6mm aluminum shaft to ensure the correct alignment later on the side of the box. And finally, all the parts are assembled together. I haven't glued this box here in place so that I can loosen it again by loosening 6 screws here, so that I can get in here when I need to make any further installations for the fire panel. But all the other holes are ready and prepared to welcome the new panels here in the Pedestal box. And if you want to build your own box at home, then you will find a download package in the member section of my website, where you will find all the DXF files that you will need to cut out all the parts on your CNC or your laser. Or if you want to use other tools, then you will also find a set of drawings with all the needed measurements. So now I'm really excited to start the new panel making series for the Pedestal, and if you don't want to miss this upcoming episode, then subscribe to my channel to stay informed about any upcoming new video from me. So I hope we'll see us soon back on the flight deck.